The second-generation Volvo XC60 has been in the US market for 8 years, and during that time, the odometer readings of many owners' vehicles have long passed six-figure mileage. This guide is nothing more than a concentrated summary of the most common issues affecting the model, compiled from online information provided by real owners and by mechanics who work with these vehicles on a daily basis. The video will be useful not only for prospective buyers, but also for current owners, as it helps identify the key areas that deserve the most attention when purchasing and operating the vehicle. This is the Long Last channel. Let's take a ride. Before entering the market, the second generation faced one major challenge, and surprisingly, it was the first generation CX60. The standard set by Volvo with the original model was so high that any serious premature failure could have dealt a significant blow to the reputation of the new generation. Skepticism ahead of the second generation's launch was widespread, and even the mere fact that the beloved naturally aspired 3.2-liter engines would no longer be available raised many questions and caused confusion among brand enthusiasts. With the second generation, Volvo placed a strong emphasis on its new powertrains. You have probably seen designations such as T5, T6, T8, and others. They can be confusing if you don't know exactly what they actually mean. In reality, it's not that complicated. The key point is that all XC60 variants are based on the same 2.0-liter Drive E engine, and the different badges reflect the specific modifications of this engine. The T5 version is turbocharged. The B5 is also a turbocharged version, but with the addition of a 48-volt battery, turning the standard T5 into a mild hybrid. The T6 is likewise turbocharged, but is further assisted by a mechanically driven supercharger, which provides immediate throttle response. And yes, as you've probably already guessed, the B6 is essentially a T6 combined with a mild hybrid system, just like the B5. The most powerful T8 variant is a plug-in hybrid up to 2022. The front axle was powered by an engine with both a turbocharger and a supercharger. After that, it was replaced by a turbocharged-only engine, while the rear axle has already been driven by an electric motor. There is no traditional drive shaft between them, as in a conventional all-wheel drive system. Effectively, this is an electronic all-wheel drive setup, or EAWD. Under the hood of the second-generation XC60, you could also find 2.0-liter diesel engines, though not in the US market. For that reason, we won't go into much detail on the diesel versions. However, their most common issues will still be mentioned, since these configurations became extremely widespread in Europe. The gasoline versions of the 2.0-liter engine first debuted in the first-generation Volvo XC60. It appears that Swedish engineers deliberately chose to break in the new engine on the outgoing model, before installing it on the new SPA platform that was preparing for launch. As time has shown, this turned out to be the right decision. Vehicles from 2014 to 2016 model years were equipped with thin oil control rigs, which tended to coke up relatively quickly and stop performing their intended function. In many cases, the valve would also burn, after which excessive oil consumption would begin. The design was later revised and updated pistons with redesigned rings were installed from the factory. Overall, credit should be given to Volvo engineers. In addition to these issues, engines from those production years had other characteristic problems that were later addressed as well. If you want to learn more about this in detail, I recommend watching videos on the Volvo Guy channel, where the author thoroughly explains these issues and the specifics of the early engine versions. The second generation, built on the new SPA platform, debuted in the US market in 2018. And from the very beginning showed fairly solid reliability, which is not very typical for first model year vehicles. The engine, despite the skepticism surrounding it, turned out to be quite successful, although there are a few points worth paying attention to. The crankcase ventilation oil separator is a well-known issue on these engines. Mechanics recommend replacing it preventatively at around the 50,000-mile mark, rather than waiting for negative consequences such as increased oil consumption or a clogged catalytic converter, integrated with the particulate filter. At around 90,000 miles, the upper engine mount will most likely need replacement, as it prevents fore-aft engine movement. At the same mileage, it is worth inspecting the AC line. since the hose often loses its seal where it connects to the metal section of the pipe. Also, closer to 100,000 miles, the EVAP purge valve may need replacement. It usually makes itself known by triggering the check engine light on the dashboard. Accessory components such as the starter, alternator, and related hardware generally have a good service life and typically do not cause problems. On gasoline engines, the fuel injectors can sometimes start acting up, which may trigger a warning about the air-fuel mixture or cause the engine to run lean. If a shop diagnoses the car and suggests replacing the injectors, it's worth trying professional injector cleaning at a specialized injector service before agreeing to replacement. Quite often, the injectors come back to life after this procedure. This issue seems to depend a lot on fuel quality. Volvo recommends running at least 91 octane fuel, and that's one recommendation you really shouldn't ignore. The turbocharger on T5 models isn't considered a weak point and often lasts well past 200,000 miles. However, T6 versions, as we know already, use not only a turbocharger but also a supercharger, and that unit can occasionally become a problem area. Around the 100,000 mile mark, the assembly may start developing vacuum leaks due to worn seals and valves, and diagnostics most commonly show a P0171 lean code. In that situation, shops typically replace the seals and related components. But if the supercharger has already seized, fixing it usually isn't worth the effort. Most mechanics recommend installing a brand new unit instead. The replacement job is fairly labor-intensive, so if you're buying a vehicle with this engine, keep in mind that the extra power comes at a price. By 100,000 miles, it's smart to have a couple $1,000s set aside in case the supercharger needs to be replaced. The B5 and B6 mild hybrids generally don't give owners much trouble, although servicing these versions can sometimes be more labor-intensive than on the T5 and T6 models. Owners of mild hybrids should check with a dealer to confirm whether the oil pump belt has been replaced. During those years, Volvo experimented with using a belt instead of a chain for the oil pump drive. The experiment didn't turn out well, and some owners ended up dealing with belt failures. Dealers are already aware of the issue, and there's a factory repair kit that converts the oil pump drive back from a belt to a chain. So before buying one of these cars, it's worth checking with a dealer to see if that update has already been done to the vehicle you're considering. There's another thing to keep in mind with mild hybrids. It's best not to let them sit unused for long periods. If you're going away for a while, it's a good idea to have someone drive the car occasionally. That's because the 48-volt battery doesn't really like being fully discharged. Cases where the battery drained completely and had to be replaced aren't uncommon. Other than that, the mild hybrid setup has proven to be fairly solid. The most powerful T8 versions starting around the 2022 model year received a new, heavily updated rear electric drive unit known as ERAD3. It can drive the rear axle on its own, without any help from the internal combustion engine. The previous generation ERAD2 was known for failures of the clutch pack. The typical symptom was the loss of electric drive. In that situation, the vehicle would move using only the gas engine. In ERAD3, the design was significantly reworked. The clutch pack was replaced with a planetary gear set. Time will tell how reliable this new setup turns out to be, but so far it has been showing fairly solid results. Now let's talk about maintenance, since it plays a key role in how reliable this powertrain turns out to be. The timing belt is best replaced every 50 to 60,000 miles. Volvo lists a 75,000 mile interval, but independent Volvo shops have seen belt failures close to that mileage, so it's safer to do it a bit earlier. Don't forget that a timing service includes the idler pulleys as well, and they should be replaced at the same time. If you're already doing the timing belt, it also makes sense to replace the accessory belt while you're there. Many owners completely overlook radiator cleaning, but the cooling stack really should be washed out about every 50,000 miles to avoid clogged radiators and potential overheating. This service is often underestimated, but it's especially important on thermally stressed engines like the B4204T. Even though the engine itself is fairly robust, it's still a direct injection motor, which means maintenance quality matters a lot. In this case, oil change intervals and oil quality are critical. A good rule of thumb is changing the oil about every 6,000 miles. At that same interval, shops typically replace the oil filter, engine air filter, and cabin filter. Spark plugs should be replaced about every 40,000 miles. Overall, with regular maintenance, the engine tends to be trouble-free. It isn't known for excessive oil consumption even at higher mileage, and rarely develops valve cover leaks, unlike the diesel versions. Diesel versions became widely popular in Europe, and compared to the gasoline models, tend to require a bit more attention, especially on the early production years. Oil leaks around the valve cover are fairly common on these diesel engines and usually show up around 60 to 80,000 miles. In most cases, owners end up going to a shop because of increased oil consumption. The fix typically involves replacing the gasket and in many cases the entire valve cover assembly. Another issue that can occur is a split or disconnected intercooler hose, leading to the turbo. When that happens, the engine starts running poorly, and over time it can also damage the catalytic converter. Sometimes the EGR pipe can crack, allowing exhaust gases to enter the cabin, which results in a burning smell and unusual noise. This issue was particularly common on vehicles built between 2018 and 2019. On diesel versions, the intake manifolds tend to carbon up relatively quickly and usually need cleaning roughly every 30,000 miles. The EGR valve also builds up carbon over time and periodically needs to be cleaned. The crankshaft seal sits in a plastic housing and can occasionally start leaking, requiring replacement. To check it, you'll need to look underneath the vehicle. That said, despite requiring a bit more attention, those engines shouldn't be written off entirely. If you live in a region with decent diesel fuel quality and keep up with maintenance, these engines are capable of running reliably for many thousands of miles. Most XC60 models came with the TG81SC transmission. In real-world use, it has proven to be a very durable unit. Although it went through multiple updates after being introduced on the second-generation XC60, even through the TG81SC, the name stayed the same. Certain components, such as the valve body, saw major revisions depending on model year, and that's something to keep in mind when sourcing parts. You may also come across the TG81SD designation. This version was used on higher output hybrid models and is built to handle greater loads. The Aisin TG81 Automatic generally has a long service life, and according to Volvo specialist techs, doesn't cause trouble if it's maintained properly. Still, there are a few things worth keeping in mind. If you're planning to use an XC60 to tow heavy trailers, you're honestly better off with a pickup. Even though the manufacturer lists a rated towing capacity, minimizing heavy towing will help preserve transmission life. There have been cases of early transmission failures linked specifically to frequent heavy towing. Hard launches also accelerate clutch wear and shorten the transmission life. One often overlooked point, keeping the radiator stack clean isn't just important for the engine, it also helps the transmission, so this is something you absolutely do not want to ignore. During normal operation, clutch material and metal components create fine wear particles inside the transmission, which is why the fluid darkens over time. That's normal. The problem starts when too much debris builds up, since it can clog the solenoid and valve body passages, eventually leading to costly repairs. The best way to prevent that is regular fluid changes. Claims that the fluid is lifetime should be taken with caution. Service intervals have a direct impact on how long the unit lasts. If you plan to keep the vehicle beyond the warranty period, a full fluid exchange with flushing is preferable, where the old fluid is fully removed rather than partially diluted with new fluid. A good service interval is about every 40,000 miles. OEM fluid is ideal, but quality aftermarket equivalents are acceptable as long as they meet the required specification. Another common question is whether the transmission filter needs replacement. In practice, if fluid changes are done on schedule, the filter usually stays clean for a long time, and replacing it isn't strictly necessary. The procedure is also very labor-intensive and requires partial transmission disassembly. Overall, the transmission turned out to be very robust, and with proper maintenance, it typically doesn't cause complaints, even at higher mileage. The first thing to watch out in the suspension is the lower control arms. Their average lifespan is around 80,000 miles. Over time, the ball joint in the arm develops play, and the whole control arm usually has to be replaced as an assembly. The upper control arms carry less load and typically last well past 100,000 miles. It's best to have this work done at shops familiar with Volvo, since servicing the suspension often requires special tools. The rear suspension has a high service life and generally doesn't cause complaints. The transverse composite leaf spring is a well-designed component that not only improves ride comfort, but is also very durable. The all-wheel drive system doesn't have any obvious weak points. The front and rear differentials are generally reliable, as long as the vehicle isn't constantly subjected to heavy off-road use. This isn't what the car was built for. Under normal driving conditions, fluid in both differentials should be changed about every 60,000 miles. The Haldex coupling isn't considered problematic either, but the fluid should be replaced roughly every 40,000, since there's no real filter in the system and the pump can get clogged with debris over time. After about 120,000, it's worth checking the sleeve in the angle gear, as it can wear out and develop play. If ignored, it can eventually lead to repairs or even replacement of the angle gear itself. The front CV axles also tend to be long-lasting. Tie rods in the steering rack usually hold up well and rarely cause trouble unless the car has taken side impacts or suffered damage. If the vehicle is equipped with air suspension, the compressor that maintains system pressure can occasionally fail. After repair or replacement, the system requires a calibration procedure that's typically only available at dealerships or Volvo specialist shops. Other than that, the air suspension is generally considered reliable and can last well beyond 100,000 miles, which is actually pretty good for this segment. The shocks installed on most versions can often last well over 120,000, which is also great. The braking system overall performs very well. Brake rotors typically last over 60,000, while pads usually last between 20 and 40,000 miles. Owners report that frequent use of the auto hold function can cause the rear pads to wear faster than the fronts. Hybrid versions benefit from regenerative braking, so their brake components tend to wear more slowly. The exterior lighting is generally reliable and rarely fails. However, if the vehicle has been in an accident and a headlight was seriously damaged, replacement won't be cheap. As for body corrosion, there's very little to criticize Volvo for here. The metal quality is excellent, and even on older SPA platform vehicles, it's not easy to find rust. The interior leather can start showing signs of wear around the 90,000 mile mark, but usually nothing serious. It takes a lot to actually wear it through. Owners who don't clear snow off their shoes in winter can sometimes run into wiring issues under the driver's seat. There's a gap near the accelerator pedal where water from wet shoes can seep under the main driver's carpet, and there are quite a few wiring harnesses and connectors located there. Volvo's engineers definitely built a great vehicle, and honestly, every version of the XC60 is worth considering. Even the higher output variants aren't what you'd call overly problematic. That said, the T5 and B5 versions with the base turbo engine have the simplest setup, since they avoid the extra complexity of the supercharger and electric motor used on the more powerful trims. If you don't live in an area with harsh, snowy winters, there isn't much reason to pay extra for all-wheel drive. A front-wheel drive model can save you money on fuel and reduce the chances of future expenses related to the all-wheel drive system. To everyone who made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. I tried to gather as much up-to-date information on the XC60 as possible, but I'm not a robot, so I may have missed something. If you own one, feel free to share your experience in the comments. It might help someone else make the right decision. And a special thanks to anyone who chooses to support this channel. You have no idea how much that helps a creator whose revenue is just a bit over $300. Alright, that's all for today. May your cars serve you well for many miles to come, and I'll see you in the next video.